There are moments when you look around at the world and feel a strange suffocation, as if the air itself has grown thinner, not because of pollution, but because of something far more invisible, a quiet stupidity that has crept into everything, into conversations, into decisions, into the very fabric of how people live their lives. You cannot name it at first. You only feel it, a heaviness, a slowness, and somewhere beneath your frustration lies a question you are afraid to ask. What if this is not an accident? What if this is how it always ends? You have noticed it in yourself too. The way you sometimes reach for easy answers. The way complexity exhausts you now more than it used to. The way you have caught yourself wanting things to be simple. Wanting someone else to think for you. Wanting to be entertained rather than challenged. And in those moments, you glimpse something terrifying. That the force pulling civilizations into decay is not outside you. It is inside you. It is inside everyone. And it is patient. There is a pattern that repeats across centuries, across empires, across every golden age that once believed itself eternal. The pattern is not war. It is not famine. It is not invasion. It is something softer, quieter, almost invisible until it is too late. It is the slow replacement of those who build with those who consume, those who question with those who obey, those who create meaning with those who merely inherit it. And you are living inside this pattern right now, whether you see it or not. Nietzsche understood something about human societies that most people refuse to accept. He saw that greatness is not a permanent state. It is a tension, a struggle, a constant reaching upward against the gravitational pull of comfort, mediocrity, and the path of least resistance. Every civilization that has ever risen did so because a small number of people refused to be ordinary. They carried fire in their hands. They built temples and philosophies and systems of thought that lifted humanity out of the mud. But here is what Nietzsche also saw. Those same civilizations, without exception, eventually turned against the very qualities that made them great. The pattern works like this. A society begins with struggle. Resources are scarce. Survival is uncertain. And because of this, strength matters. Intelligence matters. The ability to solve problems, to delay gratification, to sacrifice present comfort for future gain. These are not luxuries. They are necessities. The people who possess these traits rise. They lead. They shape the culture in their image. And for a time, the civilization climbs. But success changes everything. As the society grows wealthy, as it conquers its enemies and secures its borders, the very conditions that demanded excellence begin to disappear. Comfort replaces struggle. Safety replaces risk. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the values shift. Where once the culture celebrated the exceptional, it now begins to resent them. Where once it rewarded those who carried the heaviest loads, it now protects those who carry nothing at all. The herd, as Nietzsche called it, begins to dictate the terms. You have seen this in your own life. You have watched as institutions that once demanded excellence lowered their standards in the name of inclusion. You have watched as conversations that once required depth became shallow performances of agreement. You have felt the pressure to shrink yourself, to hide your sharpness, to pretend that all opinions are equally valid, when you know in your bones they are not. This is not cruelty. This is the pattern. This is how civilizations teach themselves to forget what made them strong. The danger is not that foolish people exist. They have always existed. The danger is when a civilization begins to organize itself around their limitations. when the structures of power, education, media, and culture all bend toward the lowest common denominator, not because it is just, but because it is easy. When the question shifts from what is true to what makes everyone feel comfortable, you are no longer in a civilization that is growing. You are in one that is dying. It simply has not noticed yet. Nietzsche called this the triumph of slave morality, not slavery in the literal sense, but a psychological orientation that elevates weakness into virtue. Humility becomes superior to pride. Obedience becomes superior to questioning. Sameness becomes superior to distinction. And anyone who refuses to bow to these inverted values is labeled dangerous, arrogant, antisocial. The herd does not destroy its greatest members through violence. It destroys them through shame, through isolation, through the slow suffocation of making them feel wrong for being what they are. And so the exceptional learn to hide. They learn to play small. They learn to speak in the language of the mediocre just to survive. And with each generation, there are fewer of them. Not because they are not born, but because the culture no longer lets them breathe. The fire that once built the civilization is now seen as a threat to it, and what remains is a hollow structure, still wearing the costume of greatness, but empty inside. This is why every great civilization falls, not because barbarians storm the gates, though they often do eventually, but because long before the gates fall, the people inside have already forgotten what they were protecting. They have traded truth for comfort, excellence for equality, meaning for entertainment. They have built a paradise for the mediocre and called it progress. You feel this in your quieter moments, the sense that something is slipping away, the sense that the world is getting louder but saying less, the sense that you are surrounded by people who have opinions about everything but have thought deeply about nothing. This is not paranoia. This is pattern recognition. This is your mind detecting what Nietzsche detected over a century ago. That the downward pull is always there, always waiting, always ready to drag everything back to the lowest level. The question is not whether this pattern exists. It does. The question is what you will do inside of it. Will you let yourself be pulled down? Will you shrink to fit? Will you numb yourself with distractions until you no longer notice the fall? Or will you become one of the few who refuses? One of the ones who keeps the fire alive, even when the world no longer wants it? One of the ones who remembers what greatness actually costs? The civilization may fall, they always do, but the fire does not have to die with it. It can pass from hand to hand, across generations, across collapses, waiting for the next age that is ready to climb again. The only question is whether you will be one of the ones who carries it.